Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real. Whoa, ooh, God. What was that? I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome. It's good to see you. You guys, we have had so many people on our pages over the past few days. I don't know what it is, but you guys are like storming Norman for news. And anyway, so I appreciate it, and I'm glad you're here. We have a really great show tonight. There's a lot of talk in Springfield with what's going on with the school board. In the last few years, there's been I don't think it's years. There's been 2 board members leave. The superintendent resigned. We've got a board member and some other board members that are kind of doing some things that we want to talk about. So Nicole DeGraff has agreed to come on. She's going to be leaving the board. And so she agreed to come on and talk with us and kind of tell us, obviously, what she can about the situation and what's going on. So we have that. And then a little later, we're going to have Alan Thayer, who is one of our sponsors with, well, look at this. I do that for all my guests. With Innovative Law Group, he and his business partner, Craig, they can do anything when it comes to helping you figure out your estate. Why do you need to do that if you live in Oregon? Well, because Oregon is horrible. It's one of 12 states in the country that taxes you on your death when you die. I live in Montana. We can die and all of our money goes to our kids, but not you, not in Oregon. So there are things that you can do and you better do, and you better do it before you die because you don't know when that's going to happen. And Alan can help you. He and Craig can help you figure that all out. That's what they do. He's also a business attorney. But I see what Oregon's one of 12 states. I love talking about this stuff because it's so funny. Because I don't live there anymore. It has the third highest death tax. So not only are they one of 12, they're in the top 3 when it comes to taxing the dead, the greediest death tax, and Oregon's the most expensive state that you can die in. So as you're planning your retirement, you might want to think about that. But prior to that, get a hold of Alan because he can help you. And he'll be here a little bit and he's going to talk to us. We have graphs and everything, and he's going to talk with us a little bit about what's going on. Our other sponsor is Ratlin is now one of the things you guys are really hot on. I've had a ton of calls on this. He's doing this new procedure where it's actually been out a couple of years, but they paint on silver dioxide. I might be saying it wrong, but I'm not a dentist. But anyway, they paint this stuff on your teeth. Like I have a few cracks in my teeth, like I do in my head, and they can paint them on there and keep it from turning into a cavity. And they can also do that for your kids. They can paint this on before anything happens. They can paint this on, it dries, perfectly safe, and it seals those teeth so you're not going to get any cavities. I wish that had been around when I was a kid. It wasn't. So anyway, let's get right to our show. Nicole DeGraff, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time. There's so much in the news right now about Springfield, and 4J school districts used to be so different. And now it seems like 4J, Bethel, Springfield, it doesn't matter where you are, this weirdness is coming into it. Can you kind of explain to us when the last board member that you have 2 board members that have left in the last couple of years?
Hear me, but sorry, it cut out. I'm not sure what you just asked, but can I just first of all say I'm not leaving the board?
Oh, you can. I'm sorry. I thought you were.
This year has been really hard, and I care a lot about governance issues, and I'm not leaving yet. I'm not going to be bullied out yet.
So but you are running for another office.
Yeah, I'm running for Senate District 6.
Okay. So if that happens, then will you stay on the board at that point?
I will make that decision if and when. That would be next year. So that would be the last year. I'm in the 3rd year of a 4-year term. So
okay.
Yeah.
So that was my assumption, and that was my bad. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just checking to see if anybody was asking me if I quit or not.
So it seems like there's a 3-2 split on the school board, and one board member just left, so you guys have a vacancy.
Yeah.
Nicole, can you just start from ground zero? What is going on?
I would say that that's hard to know where to begin. This last year has been really difficult. I'll start with the last board chair leaving. It was pretty upsetting. She left because of threats after the mid-year cuts. And we both got hundreds of emails, and I didn't really get threats. I saw people talking about coming to my house. They were kind of personal and abusive. But I know she also left because of board dysfunction. So there was some issues with governance with other board members.
So what is the dysfunction in the board? Because right now, according to what I'm hearing from the school district officials or inside sources and people, is that that the Jonathan Light is starting to ask questions of meeting with other board members and the process isn't going right or something. I don't know. Explain this to me.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's hard to understand, but it matters because we're public body, and so
Right.
everything we do has to be transparent in the public. There are board members that had complaints filed against them. There was an investigation, a third-party investigation. The complaints were substantiated, and they centered around board policy, and so there was action that the board took. Part of that was to remove the chair and vice chair from their position, and then when the board chair left, there was, we have a vacancy we're gonna fill soon, but then the rest of the board members reappointed Jonathan Light as chair, and I opposed that on the basis that we had these misconduct issues, and it kind of opened up the district to more risk. We had there was tort claims filed against him, and
Against Jonathan.
against there was 3 board members named, and so that was part of what we were discussing earlier, was that those tort claims were settled, and so there's a lot of board dysfunction with regards to governance and being a public body. Not everybody is going to be a public official, so you really have to I think you need to go above and beyond to be transparent. And what's happening with this interim superintendent process is I've been kind of kept out of the loop. There's been no board authority delegated to the chair. So I know I just said a lot, but yeah.
So tell me this latest thing. So part of this goes back to, when you guys knew you were going to have a big budget shortfall.
Yeah.
And they went to the classified employees, and they agreed to take a lesser COLA or no COLA. Is that right?
I'm not the part that is frustrating to me is that the board set parameters for the certified staff, and then when it came time, we knew that there was going to be reductions, and then when it came time to vote for the reductions, it should have been in a unanimous vote because the whole board had agreed to those parameters, and I think it just got really difficult because the bargaining continued on, but that was difficult, and it wasn't something people are used to, mid-year cuts, but that's what had to be done for the district.
It's classified and administrative bargained their contracts.
They had already settled theirs. Yeah.
That was bargained early, and the teachers opted to wait through the summer, and then it started in the fall, and then it got kind of in mid-year, and then all of a sudden you guys knew you were going to have budget. Now tell me if I'm saying anything wrong. You guys knew you were going to have budget cut problem. You had to make budget cuts. And so what you ended up doing then is having to lay off a bunch of teachers because you didn't have the budget for it.
Yeah, it wasn't delaying any further was going to be worse for the district. And then we just had our second work session for this coming year, and it's we already told that we're going to have more reductions.
Like over $10 million worth of reductions on the next year.
Yeah.
So what happened recently? You filed some kind of paperwork over the way the interim superintendent, because your superintendent then also resigned just like a few weeks ago.
Yes.
What was that all about?
I'm not sure what you mean, the paperwork.
Why did he resign? What was the board? Was there trouble with the board and the superintendent?
Well, the tort claim, it was a notice based on the belief that they were retaliated against. And so we had to pay a year's salary to separate, and included in that is a recognition that the superintendent wouldn't proceed with a lawsuit. So I think his last day is next week.
So now you're looking for a new superintendent.
Mhm.
And what's going on with that process that you're not happy about?
Well, the board is usually supposed to set the criteria.
The board, this would be the whole board. So this would be 3, 4 people right now that you have. They're all supposed to meet and set the criteria, come up
Yeah,
with the
we're supposed to
criteria?
discuss the process, the qualifications of a superintendent, how long is the acting superintendent, what's the term gonna be? And I know that the chair and vice chair have discussed things. I know that the chair and the vice chair and the other board member have talked about things, and I've been asking questions and I haven't gotten any responses. So the whole process has been outside public meetings laws. And I know that they have told different candidates different things at different times. And so I'm really worried that the process hasn't been fair or transparent. And so
Well,
tomorrow at 5 is when we interview the candidates. And yeah, today I was asked to formulate some questions to ask them, but it was, again, outside the normal process of how this board governance should work with. You think that with all the problems we have and losing a good, strong leader, that we would be way more transparent than normal. And this is the exact opposite for trying to find an acting superintendent.
so you're on the board and the other 3 board members are there was kinda different camps, and the other 3 board members are moving ahead with this interim just process, and you have not been included in that, and neither has is it supposed to be done publicly too?
It will be done publicly tomorrow at 5. So there's a special meeting at 5.
But
And so
are they supposed to do that ahead of time in meetings behind the scenes? Is that
we can't have an executive session about the candidates as long as we've already decided the process and declared the vacancy and all that in public first, but none of that was done. My understanding is that it's typical for a board chair to bring candidates to the board, but we barely had, like, I don't even know anybody else's questions. I know the questions that I submitted, and it's just as far as being kind of left out of the loop. I've asked questions in email a few days in a row now, so I've only got one request was for me to submit a couple questions that may or may not be able to be asked.
so do you feel like you're being shoved out, or they want you to be shoved out?
Yeah, but I can't speak to their motives, but I am just going to keep operating in the process as much as I can.
So what with the superintendent, go back and explain this to people because I don't think it's hard to understand. I know you're trying to be careful too, and I
Yeah, a lot of
understand.
this was discussed and decided in executive session. So I want to honor that.
I
And
want you to too. I don't wanna make you uncomfortable, like, answering stuff, but I think the public is just like,
yeah,
I hear people blaming teachers because they took a raise. I hear people blaming the superintendent. I hear people blaming Jonathan Light and these 3 board members. And, this is supposed to be a really open, clear process for people. And you're representing students and teachers. And it feels like, does it feel to you like it's kind of become a bunch of games?
it feels really convoluted to me to try and explain it. So the same stuff that has been going on with this new board or new superintendent process is what was going on last year with you'll probably see Division 22 standards. There was complaints filed at ODE, and then and there was a complaint that we had a third party investigator clear the district of any violations of not basically providing education according to state standards. And so that's kind of how that started, the way the board chair went around the superintendent and the board on his own authority. And so
Was that
that's,
Jonathan Light,
yeah.
the board chair?
Yeah, so that's what the complaints were filed for, and the complaints and all that stuff is public information. Um, so that's kind of how that started. But when I first joined the board, there was another complaint that I had to deal with him doing something similar. So there just has been a lot of chaos created whenever certain members board chair.
Okay, I think people can read through between the lines on that one. So what's the next process? So tomorrow night you're supposed to meet
Yep.
and get criteria for this new interim, or this is an interim superintendent, because as of next week you won't have one.
Right, it's an acting superintendent, so I am assuming that from now until the end of the year. I don't know. On the agenda, there was a part to talk about the process, and so it's like we're going to talk about the process, interview people, and decide all in one night. And I know that time is of the essence, but I also want to do this right.
So do you feel like this hasn't been handled very well in terms of for you?
Well, from my perspective, no.
Because you're on the board.
Yeah, it's a board. It's not.
It's a group of people that are all supposed to work
Right.
cohesively
Yeah,
together,
and it's okay
or
to
at least attempt
disagree.
to.
Yeah, we can, and everybody's going to bring their own perspective and their own culture and everything to it. It's okay to disagree, but we should all just follow the black and white a lot better.
Is it hard? Is that hard to be on a board when you know, I mean, I think as parents in the district, people would just be like, okay, enough of the bullshit. Can we
Yeah,
get on with doing the work of what about the children? You
yeah,
know?
yep. I have tried this whole time to work. Like board work is kind of unsexy, boring. uh, it's work, but it's for the kids. Like we're not really focusing on what's going on in the schools. And actually, my favorite part is doing school visits. I've done a lot of school visits and volunteering, and it's hard to even have the time to do that lately. So yeah, that's what we should be focused on instead of adult drama.
So so this is yeah, there's so many things I want to ask you, but I know there's things you can't talk about. But um, what 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 would be your advice to parents? Like, can they come to that meeting tomorrow night, and
Yeah,
can they chime in and say, here's what we want in an
yeah.
interim superintendent? I
I mean,
mean,
send an
perhaps
email to
this
the
is what
board
we,
tonight.
huh?
Send an email to the board, definitely. But um, my advice to parents is to get involved. A lot of times we don't see parents come unless there's a problem. And that's one thing I used to help parents with before I got on the board was finding out how you can go to school board meetings and how you can testify. And I still think that parents need to show up. It's once a month. We have a work session and a regular meeting, but it's important because you pick up things that are happening. You learn some background context. And the students are there. They give a report that we have student reps from high schools, and you find out what's going on in each high school. And so yeah, it's just. In fact, I would like to hear more from parents when they come to the meeting, also to tell us what's going on that's good. What what's happening in your school that
Well,
has been good for your kid.
and no offense to you, but I think it's hard for parents to come and talk about
Yeah,
what's going on good when you have a board that seems
I
to be
know.
so dysfunctional that it's like you're in charge of our school district and you're having, meetings amongst yourselves, and you're not, allegedly, I don't know. I've heard that kind of conversation, but and I think this too, and I know you know this too, Nicole, but a lot of parents go to board meetings. I hear this a lot at 4J. They go in there, and then the board decides they give them 30 seconds to talk, or three
Yeah.
minutes, and then they act like they don't even listen. So you make your comments and you stand up and you say something. And again, this isn't targeted at you, but I've heard this from parents over and over again. And it's like, and then okay, now on to business, and go on, instead of being like receptive to. It feels like, do you feel like as a board member that, I mean, I don't think you probably, oh, thank you, Monica. I appreciate that. Fuck you, Rick Dancer. There's one of my intelligent viewers. She does that all the time. She only knows 4 words, and 2 of them are my name. But do you feel like sometimes that the board is losing touch with the fact that the parents are the boss?
I
That
don't Yeah, I don't know about that. I do know that I've given public comment. I've been on the other side, And it's the Roberts rules is a little weird because we don't make comment. We make a statement beforehand saying these are the kind of the rules of, we're gonna try and stick with decorum here. And here, if you have a complaint, here's how you do it. And so people are coming and they're giving their comment. And I saw a picture of me one time when I'm just staring at somebody. And I remember thinking that night I was like super tired, but I saw the photo and I looked really mad. So I can understand why it's so not natural to have someone telling you something and you're not able to give any kind of feedback. So
Yeah, that
I
would be
totally
weird. I
understand.
didn't know that. I did. That's very interesting because yeah, I
Yeah,
mean I've seen that in meetings, and then people, all it does to the parents is make them, especially
yeah,
because people, they're not in your position, so they don't know what the rules are,
yeah,
and that would be tough. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah. I totally understand that.
so what should you, in terms of people, do you think that if parents were more, and I'm not trying to blame parents, but it seems like parents need to be more involved in this whole thing, and paying attention.
I think that's fair. I know it. Like I said, it's hard to go to board meetings and they're not very exciting, but you do hear a lot and you do get a lot of context. And if I saw people that showed up regularly, then I would get to know them a little bit. Um, our emails are on the board website, so somebody could come and give a comment and then email and say, hey, you know, I sent this comment, or I would have liked to send this comment, but I was too nervous to speak, or, uh,
Right.
this is what's going on in my school. I don't know. I think being involved, to me, it's not just being involved coming to a school board meeting. And this is what I've told parents that have contacted me. I said, well, have you talked to the teacher first? And then, if you've already talked to the teacher, talk to the principal. How much do you get out of your car and go inside the front office and meet the ladies that work up there and the staff, and just get involved in that way? Are you paying attention to the PTO notices and the newsletters that the principals send out every week? Do you know what's going on? Have you volunteered? So I know there's a lot that's kind of required of kids, but or of parents, but their education doesn't end at 3 o'clock. So being involved is pretty important.
So in this process, if parents want, to be part of the superintendent process, are they really part of that, or is that really the board going to do what it's going to do?
Well, tomorrow we're not having any public comments, but we are going to also discuss the process for the next interim superintendent, which could be for the next year. So I'm not sure. I guess we'll discuss it tomorrow. But I think that process, we should definitely, and I will mention definitely having more community input with that process. But tomorrow there's no public comments.
Do they ever have like and I don't know, because I've heard of this with city managers and stuff, but do they ever set up a committee made up of board members and people from the community to sit down and interview so they can be a part of that? And how does somebody do that if they want to be part of interviewing the superintendent or the candidates and that kind of thing?
Um, I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but I was a part of a superintendent search before in another district about 7 or 8 years ago. And being on that committee, we were part of going through the applicants, and we had this list of criteria and qualifications. And so I'm pretty sure it was a blind process, so we didn't know the names. But being that I was part of the community, I wasn't part of the school board or staff. So yeah, that is a possibility. So maybe it'll be a possibility for this process. I think that would be worth looking at.
So what's the most frustrating part for you of serving on the board right now? Is it that you're the lone man out?
I feel like we need to get back to thinking about the students more. I want to get back into the schools. The frustrating thing for me is that it seems like every other day I check my email, there's something like, okay, here's more drama I have to deal with. So I need to just kind of compartmentalize that and maybe not care as much, but that's kind of hard to do.
Well, the drama seems to be seeping over into the community as well.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe
just I would like to I don't know, there was a time where I was feeling like I was very proud of this district, and I still am, but I want everybody else to see the reasons that we have to celebrate. There's always room for improvement, but we had the highest grad rates that I guess Springfield has had ever. And so I think that's something to be proud of, and it doesn't feel like people are seeing some of the things that we can celebrate. And I know people can criticize what's being taught in schools or what's not being taught in schools, but my daughter learned how to do her taxes. She knows where to find the debt clock. My other daughter did check registry, learned how to balance that. And so there's good things that are happening. And
Well, and I agree with you. I think what the problem that people have is if you have, Oregon's number 47th in terms of educating kids, and the state of Oregon keeps dumbing down the requirements rather than Mississippi, where they're raising the requirements, and now they're number 4, and they were lower than Oregon was. And then I don't think it helps when you have a board that can't get along and put its own agenda aside and do what's best for the community. And you know what I mean? When I read this stuff, I want to go, come on. Everything's looking bad for Oregon education. You got great teachers. But when you have this in the paper, and it's not the media's fault for putting it in the paper, it's like when you got board members leaving because they don't feel safe, and you don't feel a part of this board. And so then maybe the board needs to look at itself and say, what are we doing? Are we really prioritizing the community, or is this something else?
Yeah, I wanted to do board self-evaluation and just focus
Good
on
luck.
what we're doing right and what we can do better. But that wasn't a priority for the rest right now. But yeah, and a lot of things that people are upset about with education and saying Oregon's low, near the bottom. A lot of the stuff that we have to deal with is coming from the state level.
Yeah.
And so I think that I see all these things getting added. It's like layers of things that need to be implemented, and no one ever takes anything away. But I was looking at a teacher schedule, and it was like, 8:30 this, 8:45 this, 9:10 this. And I was like, wow, the teachers have to stay so regimented with their schedule because of all the things that they have to teach. I couldn't be a teacher. So yeah, we do have good teachers.
If this was like 2 months ago and you'd asked me what was the solution, I'd say you should put education back in the hands of the local school boards, because I think when Kate Brown got rid of the state school superintendent, Susan Castillo, and then it basically became the job of the governor, and then Tina Kotek gave even more power. That doesn't help to bring back local control. But now I think if you look at Springfield, you're going to go, well, wait a minute. I don't know if I want the local school district to be any more in charge, because this doesn't seem to be, they can't seem to get along and focus and have everybody working together. So I wish you luck.
I think local control, I think when people talk about that, I don't think they necessarily understand what that means. I think it's what is a district, what is their culture, what are the demographics, how are things going to work? So things at the state level are mandated the same in a large district as they do for a rural district. They're not going to have money for electric buses, whereas another maybe a larger district can. So I think local control is still really good, but I think there needs to be kind of an agreement on what that the actual definition of that is.
Yeah, because the only boss of the school board is actually the people of Oregon, or
that's right. Yeah, and that's the other part of this, is that the accountability for board members is every 4 years, and so there's not a whole lot there's not a lot of teeth in anything that can be done. Like, you can censure a board member, which is basically a smack on the wrist, and have them say the oath again, but there's not a whole lot of accountability there. And it seems like the consequences are shifted onto the wrong people.
I think people too don't pay enough attention to the school board. You know what I mean? People, the voters, they don't pay enough attention to what's going on. Like you said, until something bad happens, and then everybody's all up in arms. Yeah. But on a day-by-day basis. If you followed this story for the last 2 years, you'd know exactly what was going on.
Yep.
Hey, Nicole, I thank you for being brave and coming on, and I hope I was careful and didn't get you in any trouble or anything like that. But I honestly I pray that that the school boards can come together and come on. It's about the kids. It's not about your power or whatever it is that you think you have.
Exactly.
Follow the rules and include everybody, and you may not win everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of how life works. You
Yeah.
don't always get your way. I don't care what your position is on a board. You don't always get your way.
Exactly.
And hey, if you want to come back and just talk about your run for the 6th district Senate seat, I'd love to have you. And we won't bring up any board stuff. We'll just talk about what you want to do and why you're running and all that. Okay.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
All right. That's very brave of her. I couldn't get anybody else to come and talk. Yeah, so frustrating as taxpayers because, but here's the bottom line is, if you as a parent, if you were somebody and you were attending, because I've got sources in the district, and if you had attended meetings, you would know exactly what's going on. And I can't go out and make accusations and tell what I know. But you would know exactly what's going on. So the key is, well, normally you'd have a media that would go to the school board meeting and report back to you, but that's kind of gone. So maybe a group of parents needs to form a little coalition, and every week you're going to a board meeting and taking charge. It's just an idea. That's what I do. Throw out ideas. Oh, Alan. So, Mr. Thayer, how you doing?
Hey, Rick, I can't hear you.
What? You can't hear me?
And I couldn't hear you when I was backstage either.
Okay, did you turn anything off?
I could hear you when we were talking before the broadcast, but
how do I? Let's see. How am I going to? I had this happen the other night. Alan, can you? I can't. You know what I could do? I could text you. Oh, you know what? Can you see the comments? Sign out and sign back in.
I've got my speaker turned up full. And I did hear you earlier.
Read the comment. Hold on, Ellen.
Can you put a message in the chat if there's something you want me to do?
Yeah, I did. It's in the comment. Did you see it? Okay, hold on, guys. Stuff like this happens, it's just what it is. Okay. Okay, so we'll have Alan sign out and then sign back in, and we'll see if this works.
All right. So
yeah, I don't know why. He saw it, Debbie. Thank you, though. I know, 2 days in a row. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that happened. So he's going to go out, and then he'll come back in. That other one was weird too. I'm gonna have to call this company and find out. I pay a lot for this program, for gosh sakes. You think they could make it? Maybe because I had 2 people on there before. I don't know. We'll get him on here though, because I really want to talk about this. So what Alan's going to chat with, he's a estate planner. I mean, he's an attorney, so he does business attorney stuff. And then he also does estate planning. But Oregon is like the 3rd highest death tax in the country. Okay, here he is. Let's see. Guys, cross your fingers. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I thought we were past the "Can you hear me" stage.
You know what? It's coming back because it's a new medium and new things happen. But I have a really good audience, and they're all very helpful all the time. So, so Alan, when you sent over, so Alan's a new sponsor here on the program. So you guys can thank Alan because we're here partially because of he and Dr. Bratlin and other sponsors that we have. But Alan's a new sponsor. And so I said, you should come on here. But he sent over that list of the things about Oregon with the death tax. And I went home and I told my wife, and we both kind of smiled because we don't live there anymore. And I thought, but when my dad died, I mean, yeah, we had some property that he left to us, and it's like the amount of money that was taken out of that was absolutely. I mean, it's like, my God, he's in the coffin, and you're like banging on it on top of it, one more time. So tell people some of the fun facts about Oregon's death tax.
Well, Oregon is the most expensive place in the country to die. So Oregon is one of only 12 states that has a death tax, a state death tax. 38 states have all gotten rid of them. Oregon is one of 12 that did not. Now, of the 12, Oregon has the lowest threshold before the tax applies, and that's set at $1 million. That was set in 2002 at $1 million and has never increased. So there's no tax on the first $1 million in value, and then the tax ranges from 10 to 16%.
Well, see, and the thing is, though, I mean, maybe back in the day that was not a thing, but now, a beach home, our beach home was like $1.3 million. And
yeah,
if you had and it wasn't like a fancy, it wasn't like a, you're going to have the Rockefellers over,
If you had $1 million piece of property in 2002, today that property would be worth about $3.5 million. That's how far behind Oregon's tax is.
So tell me these charts, because now I can't see them, but I want to bring them up because I saw them when I was loading them. So which one do you want first?
Let's start with the one that is the number 3. The Oregon death tax -3. That one.
Okay.
And so that shows how we have the lowest exemption in the nation. It shows that we currently have the 3rd highest tax rate in the U.S., but yesterday or today, the legislature, the Senate committee in the Oregon legislature that's currently meeting in short session, they have a proposal that would increase this. We've talked about the problem with freezing and inflation. Now, you may say that this is a rich person's concern, but it's not.
No.
If you have a house without a mortgage, and if you have a 401k, you have an Oregon death tax problem. If you have life insurance, now you're even complicating that even more. And the death tax combined with Oregon's taxation of capital gains. When someone sells here's how you can tell when a local business is going to be sold. About 2 or 3 years earlier, the business owner moves to Arizona, Washington, or another tax-friendly state just to avoid the taxes that Oregon wants to collect. So people are leaving. And when people leave, now you're losing all the future income tax that they would be paying. You lose all of their donations to the community that they would be doing, their charitable donations. You're killing small businesses. So if you have a small family business and when mom and dad die, you want to continue the business and keep it going in the family, but you can't. You have to sell it to pay the tax. And then more often than not, the buyers are going to move that business somewhere else, and you're losing jobs as a result of all this.
So, Alan, you said that people, what do they do? What do you do to plan for that? You know what I mean? How do you, if you don't want to move? There's a lot of people that don't want to leave Oregon.
So Oregon's estate tax exemption is a use it or lose it exemption. Sadly, we had a woman come see us after her husband died, and he died just a few months ago, and wants to leave property to her children. But because of the increase in value of the property, the tax is going to be significant. Had she and her husband planned together beforehand, we could have doubled the estate tax exemption. And if you bring up that second chart, I can show you what that means.
This one?
That one. So here we have a hypothetical couple, emphasis on hypothetical, although the husband does happen to be named Alan.
Alan, I'm sorry you died. I'm really sorry.
Yeah. And the wife just happens to be Gail, which is the name of my wife. And there's one child, and her name is Catherine. And that's my daughter, who I love dearly. But this is hypothetical because Gail's blonde and Catherine has red hair. So we just plugged in some numbers. But here's what we did. If you do a simple will, husband gives everything to the wife. And then when the wife dies, everything to their children. There's a $1 million exemption. Here we use the example of a $1.9 million estate. On that $1.9 million estate, you subtract the wife's exemption amount. That leaves you with $900,000. And the tax on $900,000 in Oregon currently is $91,000 in tax.
God, that's just brutal.
Now, if you, with some simple estate planning, you can take advantage of both exemption amounts.
Okay, so how does that work? Is that panel 2?
That is panel 2.
Okay.
And so what I say in here, so we say in each spouse's will, we say that everything to my spouse, and anything my spouse doesn't want, we put into a trust. Now, these trusts have a lot of different names: disclaimer trust, credit shelter trust, unified credit trust, family trust. They're all the same thing. So we put $1 million into the trust, and this decision is made not at the time of the will, but at the time of the death of the first to die. So if there are changes in the tax code, we can adapt for those changes at that time. But so anything my wife disclaims goes into the trust, $1 million. Then $900,000 goes to the wife. And in this disclaimer trust, all of the income off the assets in the trust are available, go to the wife. And if need be, the wife can invade the principal of the trust. So if there is a downturn or extraordinary expenses, that money is available if needed.
That's so smart, Alan.
And then when the wife dies, that trust and the money in the disclaimer trust, that $1 million goes to the children without tax. And then the $900,000 that the wife has transfers to the child without tax. And now we have gone from $91,000 in tax to zero.
Wow. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's estate planning. Now, there's a lot of
I wish my parents would have talked to you.
And now there's a whole host of other issues that we address in any estate plan when we meet with people, and we could talk about that later if you want. But one of the reasons why the Oregon death tax is an issue is because former legislator and Salem attorney Kevin Mannix, I'm sure that you're familiar with Kevin.
I know Kevin, yeah.
Kevin has filed an initiative petition to do away with the Oregon death tax.
Huh.
And that's initiative petition 51. And Rick, in the studio chat, I sent you a link to where people can go to get a petition to sign to repeal the Oregon death tax. We could be state 39 to do away with the death tax.
Did you put it in the comment section?
Yeah, in the studio chat. You should see it.
Okay. All right. So it's what's the name of it again?
When I left and came back, it got lost. So here is the website. It's endthedeathtax.com.
Okay, endthedeathtax.com.
And so that's their website. And then I think if you go /pound or hashtag, and then the word sign, SIGN, you can download a petition.
My dear friend, who I miss a lot, Kristen Ryan, she says, Alan, do you charge people to come talk to you about all of this stuff? I guess my show's not good enough for her.
We would be happy to talk to Kristen. And yes, I mean, we meet with people, we find out what their estate plans needs are. And based upon their situations, then we can develop a path forward. But we'd be happy to meet with her.
Yeah. So anybody, just get a hold of Alan Thayer, Innovative Law Group, and you can make an appointment and go in and talk to him I mean, it's so important. I mean, so many people don't do this because they don't want to think about dying. Well, then all of a sudden you're in an accident and you've screwed your family out of probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more.
Well, yeah, and I don't know why people don't want to talk about this. Death and taxes, aren't those people's two favorite topics?
Those are the things I thought we weren't supposed to talk about.
Well, and a proper estate plan, you also deal with issues before death. You know, if there's a medical emergency, there are protections that you can put in place in the event that happens to you. I mean, today I'm a walking example of how things can happen that you don't expect and you don't plan for.
Yeah, Alan ended up injuring himself, and it's been months.
In fact, next week will be 12 weeks after surgery, and I hope to finally get out of my leg brace.
Alan Rust, Mr. Rust wants to know, and Mr. Rust, I'm using that. I'm calling you that just to make you feel so important. What's the average rate of savings over the fees that would include? Please, thank you. It's probably individualistic, and I mean, it's going to be based on how much you're putting, what you're doing for them, right?
Exactly. So if it's a complicated estate and where we're protecting wealth for future generations and there's wealth to protect, then that's a more complicated estate and it's going to cost more. If it's a non-taxable estate, then it's a pretty simple thing and the fees are correspondingly less. I haven't done it in the form of a cost benefit, but you know, let's take the example that we showed of this hypothetical Gail, Alan, and Catherine. That would be probably $4,000 estate plan, $4,500 estate plan, maybe, in order to save $90,000 in taxes.
Alan, Mr. Just says 2 hip replacements, 3 lower back surgeries, broken neck, blind in 1 eye, broken jaw 7 places, drowning in my own blood. You'll be okay, Alan.
Well, I love that. One of the things I learned by this injury, and it was a significant injury, but everybody has something, and so many people have been through so much worse.
Yeah.
And you learn a little humility and you learn a little patience, which for me is a hard lesson. And so far, the takeaways have been greater than the inconvenience and pain that's resulted from this. And it also helps me talk with clients when we talk about you don't know what the future holds and there could be medical issues. And here's what we can do to help protect you in the event of medical issues. So it's been a net positive, I think.
So do you, I mean, now that, you know, you're kind of like me, we're in our close to retirement years, but we still like to work. So we just keep doing stuff. Do you like, I would think that planning at people's estates would be so fun. Because I know when I went to my financial planner the first time and we took all the money, kind of went through there. Also, my wife and I looked and we went, "Oh wow, we're going to be fine." And I mean, a lot of that really happens where it's like you have peace of mind and you're helping people to get to go, just make the decision, get it formed, and then go live, because you're going to die, but you go live and you know what I mean, and you got a plan.
The most common emotion after people sign their estate planning documents is a sense of relief. This is something that some people have been putting off for years or tens of years or longer than that. And now they have a plan in place. Or now there's also other people who come who've had plans from when their kids were young and their financial circumstances were very different. That actually was the case with the couple I mentioned previously. But their estate plan didn't reflect the current financial realities and didn't have some of the protections in place that could have benefited from people.
Right. So do it
So
early.
we'll do it early and do it often, I guess. Not often, but there are points, inflection points in life where it is time where you should review your estate plan. Hey, Rick, can I mention one thing real quick?
Yeah.
The Oregon Senate, they know about this initiative petition to repeal the death tax. They also have seen the same polling that I have seen, that the death tax in Oregon, among all income levels and all political persuasions, is very unpopular in Oregon. And so the legislature is trying to fix it. And so a bill, Senate Bill 1511, passed out of committee either yesterday or today, and they raised the exemption amount from 1 million to $2.5 million. And
Oh,
that may
wow.
sound that sounds good, right?
Yeah, to my ears.
Well, when is a tax decrease not a tax decrease?
Oh.
When it's a tax increase. And so what they have done, so yeah, we'll increase the deduction amount, but the rates, instead of starting at 10%, are going to start at 12.75%, almost 13%. And instead of capping at 16%, they're going to cap at 20%. And so I just got this earlier, and there's a little graph here that you can't see, but at $2.89 million, and it's easy to get to that with a house or a house in a vacation house, a retirement, maybe some life insurance. $2.89 million, you're paying more under the new plan than under the old plan. And $2.89 million is below the minimum threshold of all but maybe 2 or 3 states in the United States.
So they just keep taxing everybody. Like, it's like, you know what I mean, Alan? It's so frustrating. I mean, I don't live there, but I feel it because I have family there and all my friends. I mean, it's like I'm watching this and it's like they just won't stop and they hide it, so that like that, because we would think, oh yeah, this is a great idea. And, so Kevin, and what are the chances of Kevin Mannix's bill or legislation passing? Because he is
I'm
a
not
Republican.
I'm not aware. Well, first of all, I don't know where he is, how they are on their signatures, and that's why I think it's important that people go to inthedeathtax.com and pull down a petition and turn those in. But the proponents of the tax are going to say, oh, the legislature fixed this. We don't need this initiative petition. So vote no. It's already been fixed. I have not seen the polling on how those messages resonate with the public. Hopefully people won't be misled. And that's one of the reasons why I suggested we talk about this today, is sign the petition and don't be misled by what the Oregon legislature is trying to do right now.
Okay. Yeah. Alan, when I was a news guy, Alan was like my guy that I'd call up and go, explain this to me. What does this mean? Because you're very connected with people in the know and that are doing things. And, you're a lawyer, you're a smart guy, a lot smarter than Kate Brown.
Well, Kate Brown and I went to law school together.
I know. And I
Yeah.
know where she came in the terms of the class too.
Well, I did have a very high class rank.
Alan Thayer, thank you for that valuable information. I think you got some clients out of this thing, and well deserved. And I'll keep pushing that inthedeathtax.com when I'm introing shows and stuff. So keep me informed on where it goes. Like if something start happening, then I'll just report on it, or I might just bring you on and have a little update or something like that. Okay, next week.
Happy to do so.
All right, take care of yourself, please, and thank you for sponsoring our show. We appreciate it.
Hey, great to see you, and thank you for all that you're doing. It's very much appreciated.
All right, Alan. See you later, Alan Thayer. All right, you guys. So if you do not have an estate plan, get a hold of Alan. That 400, 500, whatever the amount, it's gonna save you thousands and thousands of dollars, and you'll have peace of mind. But also go to that website, inthedeathtax.com, and sign. This is a petition drive, just like you did. Remember how you did this, guys? All of you, the 250,000 plus of you who threw the gas tax back in the governor and the Democrats' face. Well, now they're doing it. I hope most of you heard. They're still trying to get it passed through the legislature, and the Senate walked out yesterday. Senate Republicans walked out. So we'll see how that's going to happen. What's going to happen with that? We are not here tomorrow. We're back on Monday. And oh my gosh, somebody asked earlier, why do you do 2 shows at once? Well, honestly, what it is, I have so many people calling me with good stories that I just can't not put them on. And so Monday, so far, I don't have anything, but I got Tuesday. Dan Farrington is running for Ed Deal's seat in the House of Representatives in Oregon. And then on Thursday, a guy is on here. He wrote the greatest article on my page. I mean, I just saw it and somebody sent it to me. His name's Eric Goranson. I don't know him, but I contacted him and said, would you be willing to come on and talk about, it's kind of where we're at as Americans right now. And it was so good. I was like so impressed. And I said, I really want you to come on and have a conversation with me. If you guys did not see our interview last night with Brian Wright, he's a guy who works in recovery. He's recovered, and he's now working in recovery. It was so awesome. Just awesome. And it's what I would love to do all my life, is put people that don't fit in and don't, that some think don't matter. And he's so honest and so real and has really good ideas. I think you're really going to like it. Also, I put at the beginning there that we have a website where it's a per pay for, it's $12 a month, but I post other stories and shows that I've done. And we just posted something on there that we did back in 2007, before I left the news business, called a special we called Invisible. And it has stories of people in the community that feel invisible. It's powerful. I just sat and watched it today and went, oh my God, remember when you used to do that kind of stuff, Rick? That was so fun. But I think you'll enjoy it. But there is a fee, there's a charge, and you can decide to do that or not do that. It's whatever you want. But it's on at the top, there's a little link and you can go to it and just sign up if you want to. All right, that's it for now. We will see you guys on Monday. Even if I don't have a show, I'll come on. I have a few things I want to talk about. Lucky you. We'll see you later. Share this on your page too, please.